Wow. Great job on them. Hi everybody, my name is Jessica Holyfield. I'm a professional dancer, professional dance choreographer, and dance educator based out of the southeast of the United States. And we're taking a look at Xikers. This is their debut Tricky House. This is their dance practice. And I'm treating this like a mini marathon in comparison to their Samba Names ATs. I just recently, like literally yesterday, finished up their marathon. I've caught up on their entire discography and it is all bingeable on Patreon. But with this group in particular, I'm doing a mini marathon. I haven't seen any other stuff. I've never heard of them until I started reacting to ATs and I understood what the entertainment agency was. So we're gonna take a look here. I'm gonna go through all of their dance practices, but starting with this one in order. We're gonna go through, get some initial thoughts on it, do a full analysis of the choreography, and then we're gonna have, it's gonna be a great day in the neighborhood. So without further ado, let's go ahead and check it out. Hey! Wow! I'm gonna assume all of them. Ooh! I'm gonna assume all of them are members, because normally dancers either wear masks or they're in something different. It's a lot of members. Nice. Wow, great Great performance. That was a really nice fixed point they did. I love this. Hey! Really creative way to syncopate that. Definitely has an oriental vibe about it, and I love it. That's been kind of my vibe preference-wise lately, so it's really nice to hear that as their debut. Wow. Nice. Ooh. That's a lot of range on this choreo. Yeah. Wow. Great job on them. So yeah, for sure, this is all the members. We definitely have more than from their Sunbae. Sunbae said 8. This looks like 10. 3, 4, 5. Honestly, this is very interesting that this entertainment agency strives to debut even numbers, because most people are gonna debut odd for the obvious reason. When you deal with a one-part feature, It's so much easier to create symmetry on both sides without covering anybody up. But they do a pretty good job of maintaining symmetry, so I think this is a whole vibe. Their songs are just as long as AT's, so bless their hearts on the singability of this, but I really, really liked this. So let's go ahead and go from the top. Technically, this is my first this is my first marathon of a Gen 5, because most of the time I catch a Gen 5 group right whenever they debut. I would say Rise is a good example. I caught them right when they debuted, like the day. So I got very lucky with them. And so I've like pretty much I was caught up with them whenever I found them, you know, and I think Baby Monster, I got them at debut too. So this is my first, things have been happening for the year and I'm catching up. So I'm here for it. So it's Dokebi집. This is cool. All right, from the top. I really like how they set up the energy of this. So it looks like they did a crossover here. Normally you would see people just kind of create the symbol and they would kind of replicate it, but they've crossed over so much. Kudos. We got to talk about the shoulder flexibility here. Very impressed at this guy's in particular, his shoulder flexibility. You can tell he has a little bit of resistance on that left side because it's not able to fully go over his head. His flexibility is pretty in check there. I would say his needs a little bit of refinement and his. So I would say my two so far good shoulder flexibility are these two right here. And you can tell because they're able to poke their head through. You like my little effects? I can never get rid of those. You can just tell like my shoulder flexibility is really not that great. Or it could also be they're hyperextended. That's also a little note. It could be one of two things. But going from the top here, he goes, hey! It's really nice that they have him lifted. It's kind of, they're setting up this very stoic position, like he's riding on something, which I really like. They turn around, he shoos them away, they transition down. He's the only one that's up. Really great way to transition him down without doing a lot. This is giving, I mean, rookies have a particular type of energy. It's wild the amount of energy these guys have. It's a lot, you know, for me and my older body. I think it would take me 3 to 5 business days to get the stamina to do this all the way through. But I know for them, they're young, they're spry. There is something to note about that, and they're still growing. If they look like teenagers. I think a lot of them are probably teetering on that teenage, maybe baby adults over here. Elder children is what I call the teenagers in the world. So I feel like they're still developing until they're going to be in their mid-20s. Even some members of ATs are still quote-unquote developing because they're not even quite in that pivotal, like, set in their ways stage. So that's kind of cool to see. From here, this is kind of our key point choreo. We drop it down. There's a chance I'm going to have to 0.75 this because there's a lot of information going on here. From the top, I really like this key point choreo. Bleeding it through, they hit it over. Honestly, really great job on the range here. Because normally, whenever you operate with a bent arm in any way, shape, or form, you are pulling a higher risk, a significantly higher risk of it not being in line with somebody else's bent arm. When it's straight, it's a little bit easier because everybody knows how to straighten their arm, right? But then you run into the problem of hyperextension. And that's where you got to refine it, this, that, and the other. Here, they do a pretty good job. I'll say one of them, his arms, he keeps it a little too high. Everybody else does a pretty good job of dropping it a little bit lower, but some of them are choosing to keep it placed and some are using their torso. So that, if we want to talk about overall improvement of synchronicity, if you want it to look like that robotic crispness where your synchronicity is part of your captivation in the digestibility of your content, that would be little details that you would want to fix, like where your torso is going as you extend it, as well as the range from point A to point B, how fast are you going? So having him branch out to the side, they go in, do, and then they pick it up. I really like that. Definitely tailoring to the timbre of the track. I like that a lot. Switching it through. Great personality, dropping it down. Great way to feature your first person. They bring it around, doom. Notice where their direction of their body is very important. Some of them do tend to have their shoulders a little bit higher here. Could be because of shoulder flexibility, or it could be because they naturally place their attention there when they're performing. You see that both times. So that would be something I would need to tell this dancer here, this performer. He needs to lower his shoulders a little bit to be more relaxed. It's going to help him in the long run with his chest. And I love right here, I love this here going into the head isos, but when we talk about head isos, my overall note is you have to complete it and you have to make it a proper fixed point. So whenever you drop into your head iso, a lot of times people get this part right. It's this part that's wrong. It's either they're not pushing this head too far, they're either pushing it too far back, so it's adding extra motion to the head when it's supposed to be a fixed point, or they're not doing enough and they carry the fixed point down, not creating a head ISO. One of our guys didn't even do the head ISO all the way through, and I think it was him. I've noted him twice. He stands out in good ways, and I can see him stand out in other ways. I think it's because of his height, naturally here. Yeah, that boom, boom. Notice that some of them are keeping their head down and they're poking it back versus allowing, like they're going here and then they're resetting it back up versus keeping it where it is and dropping the body lower. And some are looking straight and some are looking front, so that would be a natural refinement. That second one, it was a very baby ISO, so I would say really make sure the amount of energy that you give in that first one, you give in that second one. And I love the pull there. I love how they all go off to the side with a nice little footwork on the side. Now, some chose to use their head, some chose to not. I'm assuming our feature didn't and everybody else did. I couldn't really see everybody there. New feature, they jump. Hey, with the jump, I love that. Switch positions. Really interesting in the groove. It feels like a butterfly, like an old school hip hop butterfly, and then they kind of turn it out to create this really nice energy while exuding this type of position that we had seen earlier. I like that a lot. Pulling it down and up. So this is something I'm going to go ahead and say here. Could be because they're rookies, not sure, but you notice, you can tell that they're eyeing something right here. My note is you want to be able to perform with your face, and you have to be intentional with where you look. So I can tell a lot of them are doing this when I feel like that is not supposed to be what the goal is. It's wherever you're looking is where your eyes need to go. And that's something that you don't realize you do until somebody tells you to. It's just a chance they're not even realizing they're doing that, but that can make some interesting habits, especially when they perform on stage. So that would just be my note in the dance practice space, to just be mindful of where they're looking. That pull down and then they pull through. Boom, boom, da-da-da. And I feel like our two guys in the back are supposed to mirror each other. They weren't quite doing the same thing, nor were their setups the same. I'm assuming they were just trying to do their own thing because one of them completely popped it off and the other one just kept it here. So it's either a huge choreography discrepancy that needs to be fixed there, or they need to commit to their individual choices more. So there's not even a question about it. So going from here, he's moving away, goodbye. And then we have a new feature. It's my feet. I've already pointed him out twice for different reasons, but it's nice. He has really great presentation here. Very extroverted in personality. He uses his tongue a lot, especially in the chorus. I think that's where I picked up on it. The throwing of the arms is really nice. The switch pulls it in. Really nice, that boom, doo-doo-doo. Really nice seeing this kind of, like this little chug, not quite a camel walk, but it is kind of teetering on that. And they have a nice polyrhythmic upper body to tailor it. I really like that. Pulling it down, boom, da-da-da. And I love that, and how he's still up, dropping it down. New features getting introduced because he's coming from the back. I love that here. So honestly, the formations here, when the more numbers you have, the more options you have to feature people. But you also run the risk of hiding people at the same time. So, but what's cool though is because they've built in, as their actual numbers, a large enough group to where you can have people go off and on a lot. It allows people to have breathing moments, and it can save you some time on getting dancers. You don't really need dancers as much in a group of 10, but then I say 17 is a great example. They got 13, right? So all that to say, like, they're able to really get away with a lot more. They can do more with more numbers, but also the synchronicity is going to have to be a bigger factor when you clean your routines with more people. I love that right there. And he kicks them, they push him back. I love that with the head, boom, boom. Not everybody started and stopped at the same time, so that would be my note there. Picking it up. I love the look with the leg brought in. That was super fun. Up, really nice moment. Hitting it through, dropping it down. For me, certain hairstyles, like my guy in the front, these can be really helpful if you want to showcase the amount of effort your presentation's giving you. If you want to show, hey, I'm trying really hard here, and you want to show people that somebody needs to have a haircut like that, and you're going to see that fringe really give things away. But you run the risk. The fringe can give stuff away, even in ways that you don't want it to. So that was a really good moment because we got to see how far he was pulled because his hair showed us, you know. I thought it was really fun. Ooh, I need to switch the marker out. Okay. So now we have 3 guys coming back in, diving it in. This right there, da-da-da-da, shaky shake. I really like that part where they do the initiation of the shake in the top and he controls them in the bottom. That was cool, but I need to clarify to make sure what quite they were supposed to do. Was a Harlem shake? Oh, da 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 da, shimmy shimmy. It was a shimmy, so it wouldn't. No, Harlem Shake wouldn't have worked there. Like click 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 click. I really like that. Dropping it back over, throwing it down. Honestly, this was a really great presentation or performance moment. It's really cool. It goes da 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 da, and they throw it up. Really fun. Boom and boom. Really nice. Really fun, playful, but it does have a mischievous playfulness about it, I think, where they'd be very extroverted in movement, but also at the same time, it feels like they're up to no good. It gives off that energy too. Could be because they're younger. It could be because I'm naturally projecting whoever comes after ATs. ATs got a bit of unhingedness about them, but it works in their favor in some of their concepts. But here, it definitely works for them, but I don't know are they going to be diving into lore of the same depth as ATs? Are they in the same universe as ATs? I don't quite know. Xikers, I know it's like hikers with an X, xikers. In Tricky House, that gives me an ATs kind of name, and the type of track this is, you can, I mean, it's not a comparison thing. I'd say it feels like we're in the same universe of discography, which is awesome. I love AT's discography. I have a lot of their songs on my playlist, and I heard and listened to their songs way before I even knew who they were. So it just shows you the power of music, right? So I feel like they're going to have some really great music just because of, I'm assuming there's some overlap in production and teams and stuff because of the company, and that's great. I'm just very intrigued. If you are a fan of this group, if you could tell me, is there an overlap here? Because I know there was a certain part of the music videos that were happening with ATs where there was an introduction of a younger child with like an emblem, and it was in white, and then we saw those people again in another, like Halazia. So was it them? Because we hadn't seen the kids again since then. Like, is it them that we were kind of Easter egging about, or are they in the same universe? I don't know. I'm trying to understand it so I can live in it. I think it'd be really fun. Anyway, going back to the actual choreography here though, nice moment that he had, and then he drops it down. New person brought in. This part right here, I really like this. I don't know what it's supposed to signify. It could be a wordplay thing. I'm not fluent in Korean, so I don't 100% know. Maybe in the music video, if I watch it. I tend to, after I marathon stuff, I go and I catch up on all the music videos just to see. It's really fun in that way. Maybe they'll clarify that in the future. I love that here he goes. He barely catches that though, I will say that. This right here, boom, boom, bringing this up. This does, it gives me like Monkey King vibes, which is similar to Gorilla that ATs does. And here's the thing, when I look at this group, I am going to use ATs and reference them a lot. One reason why I am watching them right now is because I just finished an ATs marathon. I'm very familiar with the teams that work with groups from this agency. So I'm going to see overlap a lot. I say all of this out of appreciation for the choreography, not out of plagiarism or biting awareness, none of that. I really like the aesthetic that they're giving here. It's similar to the essence that Gorilla had from ATs that's primitive, but it also feels intentional. There's some foundation built in, and you have to have a certain level of projection in order for us to understand what you're trying to get across. Don't rely upon your music solely to do that. You have to do that in essence, and they're doing a great job so far of that. This right here, boom, doom, 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 using it with the polyrhythm of the feet, which I really like. The switch, ding, ding. They're doing a good job with placement. So far, everyone's doing pretty good on the placement. Some people are hunching over a little bit more than others. I actually really like how he's doing it. He's doing a good job. He's our feature, so it's fine for him to take liberties. But a lot of people are taking a more laid-back approach, so that would be a clarification of the torso. Lower, you're going to define the angle more. Higher, you get a different posture. It looks more laid back, more playful. So that's why it's important to clarify that, because they read differently. I said da 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 da. That was fun to see. Then they drop it through, dee dee dee, and then they drop it down through, and then we have our shoulder, and then we have our usage of our hand, which is nice. Bringing it up. I like first from the side, and then we shook it at the top. That was a really nice build. I do feel like, do we kind of have the same kind of coming up, so our one feature didn't really do what everybody else did, but then everybody did the same thing. Somebody slides in, then we go doom, doom. One person comes in, explosion. I really love this. Notice not everybody commits with the head. Where your head goes does matter, because that's going to show where I need to look. If everybody's looking up except for one person, who am I going to look at, right? So that's why over here it feels more muddled. because of the presentation of the face, not just the movement. Because over here, there's some discrepancies in the angle, but it really, I mean, I know that we're trying to go for that branch out effect with the columns, because that's kind of the trend with this type of track nowadays, which is great. I love it every time I see it. But the reason why it just feels more muddled is because our feature obviously is looking more front, but some of our guys who aren't featured are also looking front when it's supposed to go up. Yeah, boom, this, and they throw, and then they go down with the pas de bourrée. So they actually do a really good job of creating more fullness through that pas de bourrée to finish out the movement and extending out. That right there, da-da-da, that really gives Monkey King vibes. I like it. It's a vibe. And honestly, everyone's got to commit to it for it to vibe well, and they are. And they do it every time. Like, their energy is very full, and I love this swing, and they drop back. This is a really great example of a good fixed point. So he stuck out to me in a good way here. He's sticking out a lot. So I guess it would only be fair I would need to know his name so I could reference him if I keep picking him out in the future. Tall members of groups tend to get a lot of my eyeball, or I feel bad when I forget certain members who they are. So I try to be intentional about who's who in some marathon groups. So here, this guy, I pointed him out for some critiques and some positive stuff, so might as well. I would like to know his name in particular. If you give me a list of all of them, I will not remember. Maybe one day I will know them all. But today I would like to know who he is, because if you look at him and how he does this fixed point is the head. So if you look here and how they set this up, boom, boom, that right there. Look, notice where the level he dropped, he stayed there as he turned. That's the ideal format of a fixed point when you rotate around. That's what you want. He did come up near that tail end. The most beautiful part is if he stayed down the whole time. Freaking sick, right? And I love the tap tap. They're adding something a little bit more on top of the basics, and I really like that. The swipes, there's a lot of swipes, a lot of arms, and it's very impressive how definitely on the cleaner side we're seeing here with the amount of range that's happening on this, you know? That boom, da da da, and they drop it down. Everyone's melting, doing their own thing. Really good to have a lot of levels, because whenever people make their own choices, it's easier to know, oh, they're doing their own thing. So you have three that are a little bit on the lower end. They're on the midline. He's a little bit higher up. So for me, my assumption is going to be either look front, but he's already kind of been featured, so there's a good chance we're about to move on to somebody else. He's going to be my next person I'm going to look at. So let's see if he's my next feature. Let's see. Oh, look, he is, because he's the only one that's standing. He's the only one that's looking at us. They hit it, boom, reaction. Everybody's using more of a wave. My note there, though, is that be very clear. Are we just kind of throwing our arms is what it looks like, or are we actually doing a fundamental? My assumption is going to be just throwing the arms with a sense of essence, or not essence, like an elongate, like breath behind it, like wind, but not like waving fundamentals or anything like that. Bleeding it down. I love the energy. That pop off on the side. Really nice to slide away, which is good. And they're off on the races. We got our three right here. Really great energy. Boom with the fringe. And boom, and he kicks, and they all go back. I love that part. Boom, and they all register over to our feature. That with the head, my overall note is not everybody has the same range of their neck. So I would say refine that, especially if you have 6 people, not your full number. But the more people, more problems you'll run into. So that would just be my note to make sure that that's very clear. They go up, they drop it. I love this. And they grab to sink them down to go the pop, pop, pop. Really fun on syncopation. I said that the first time. Let me note this too. This looks like it's center. And that's how we mark center. A lot of times you put the line in the line. That's your center mark. They're off center. Because technically they would need to be our center, and so they're just slightly off. You know, they just need to move over just slightly, and it would match fine. He throws it down. I love the energy of everybody responding to whenever he does kick. It feels more collaborative of the feature to everybody else. And they go bomb, which I really like. They pull away. They kick through. Having the energy, the bleed. I love the waves on this, but just making sure that everyone's on the same page. I noticed with one of our guys, I feel like I'm pointing out the same people. It's fine. He wasn't actually following through on the rest of his hands. So that would be my overall note for him, is that you want to make sure that we have clarity here, not just here. The reason why I say that is because I used to just be content with this. I didn't realize the importance of hands in waving. And so when you do waving, you have to follow through the knuckles, because these are joints too. Just like your elbow and just like your shoulder, any place that can bend is a place that needs to be considered in a wave. Entrances and exits especially. So that's my overall note. I noticed it from him. The other ones didn't quite have clear waves, so that would be my note for them. It needs to be very clear where you're going and where you're finishing. Where does your energy originate from and how you're choosing to leave it. That kind of stuff matters in the fundamentals. They've centered it up. I like that boom, boom, and they're dipping. Notice some of us have that thumb dipped down, some are to the side. Just clarify that. Some are not even looking to the front. So I would say their overall cleaning, they got to focus on where their head goes. They need to focus on details like, okay, here's our move. Where's our body? You know, I feel like we're neglecting where the torso's going in a lot of the choreo, but the range is good and the extensions are good. But for most groups, that's typically fine. You can tell most groups clean extremities, they don't clean torsos, because torso is where groove and essence come in, and texture is the first thing that goes out the window whenever you talk about extremities. And you only clean the outsides. You got to think about here and understand this and make this clean, and that's what makes it captivating and digestible in this way. I love that kick, boom, doo-doo-doo. Also, my note for my guys in the back, you notice how they were drumming? They weren't using their back at all. So they need to use their back. Back's connected where? Torso. They're really not utilizing their torso in the most effective way for this choreography. But it doesn't discredit the fact that the choreo looks freaking sick. Like, it does. I like it a lot. Diving down the da-na-na, really nice to see. The boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo, which I like. Some of them are picking up the foot, some are not. I'm assuming it's like an arch, possibly a 4 charge with a tap. Doo-doo, diving it through. Yeah, my note is my guy right here. He's really not using his back at all. And it could be because of his height. And sometimes whenever you're taller, a lot of times you don't think about this as much. I was saying that about Yoonho from ATEEZ for sure. He's definitely one of those that I had mentioned that almost every time I call him, I'm like, oh, that's Yoonho. The reason why I can tell is because he doesn't use this. Very rarely does he use this. And he sometimes dances next to somebody like San, who's like, you know, he's going for it, an extroversion of power. So that's the only reason, you know, so that's something that I'm knowing. That's more of a grace awareness thing. I love how he hits here and back up, allowing them to come back up, which is really nice. Pull through, dipping it down, really cool on the swipes. Now having him here in the center, and then everybody builds themselves out, do-do-do, and chug-a-chug. But notice that even here, we're using like the top part of our shoulders, but not the full leverage of what we can bring to this part. Doom, 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 like using the chest here to really use that diaphragm and contract here that allows a lot of power to come into a lot of these hits. It does feel a bit empty in how they're executing these arms. Diving it through, which I really like. I love the spiral. That was fun. It is tricky to get everybody to do that and then land at the same time. It's fun. I love how he has the tension. Really nice, natural, pedestrian kind of perspective, which I really like. That's cool. The throws, bringing it up. Now we're right back here. Some people are already connected, some haven't. So make sure everybody needs to make sure they're at this at a certain point. That's going to be helpful for that. That little woo! I like that. That right there, boom, doom. This choreo looks really cool. I like it a lot. Do-do-do, da-da-da, fun. Yeah, I mean, I'm thoroughly enjoying this. Diving it through, really nice to see. Digging it up. Yeah, da-da-da-da-da-da. So this is bringing great energy. Bringing it through, ding, ding. And we're seeing similar stuff that we've already seen in the first course. So my same notes apply. I mean, it's honestly impressive. We're minute 53 in. This is not an easy routine in terms of having to sing at the same time, but just the amount of energy that is required. Like I told you, 3 to 5 business days over here to get the amount of energy that they are exuding. For me to be able to do that, I have to focus on this 3 to 5 business days to get that kind of energy. And I wouldn't have very many takes in me either. My body is not trained in the stamina of this style nearly as much as it is in waving, you know. So, and that's a very different wheelhouse of vocabulary, of movement, as well as textures or adjectives of sentences, things like that. So love the energy, like the energy, very impressive. That is something that I feel like with this entertainment agency, people are going to expect. Is their stamina maintained in the dance practice as it is on stage? That would be your go-to. I love that boom, bleed it over. I really like the energy there. Right there, just as much energy as the first time. Dipping it down, great on the fixed point still. Tapping it through, he throws it down for a great transition. Notice he had his moment, stuck his hand up. Really great way for us to know that's who we need to focus on. Now, ding, 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 ding. Notice that's the same note I've said. Anytime they do anything with their head, not everybody's committing the same way. It could just be because of the range of the neck. Like I said, some of them do not have a lot of shoulder flexibility, and that could be translating here. I would say a great suggestion, stretch. You know, I mean, for me, I have to live by that example. I do not stretch nearly enough for the type of content that I learn a lot of times. So I get it. So there's a chance, I don't know if they actually are stretching or they're over tensing in the neck. That's another thing. Under adrenaline, a couple things can happen. Some of them tend to tense their shoulders. What's connected to those shoulders? The neck. People can tense their neck. For me, a lot of times when I'm under adrenaline, I put so much energy and power in my shoulders. Not that they over tense, but I make my hands have this extra level of legato, so they're extra smooth or they're extra breathy, you know, like they have a little too much wind in the sails for my arms for what they need to be, and that's how you can tell if I'm unconfident or not feeling very familiar with choreography, because I'm not thinking all the way through my arm. I'm just thinking about torso and getting the body right. So that's just my overall note. It could just be, you know, with some of them, they're not ticking. It's not even a tick. They're not actually isolating the head effectively for this part. The swing is nice. Seeing this here, we're going here. Dun, 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 dun. And I know we're dealing with the hinge. Also the range. Notice my front guy is going a little too fast. Gotta slow that down. I like the claps and our stomp. Notice that not everybody did the stomps. I think either our feature needs to do it or everybody needs to do it. Some of our guys, I think one of them, the guy in the green pants, he also did the foot. So that would just be, clarify that. From here, he goes and he pulls. Really fun. I like boom, doo 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 doo. And I like the energy there. It does give like a nay-nay, but they're digging it down more on the side than going to the back. So I think that's a really fun way to integrate something that's considered viral and groove, but they do it in a way that's tasteful to the overall concept. And I like it. Pulling it down, I love that din-a-din, but notice boom, boom. Some people, when they don't use their back, it's gonna look inconsistent. If they use their back as they do it, you're gonna actually have some power behind the movement. So there's a difference between this and this, and it's all in the back. So that's my overall note for my back guy, funnily enough. I love how they present themselves forward, but notice that one of them is presenting himself significantly more than my other guy. Could just be personalities, that's fine. But whoever comes forward, when you have two people, and you're singing at the same time, you want us to be able to look at both. So don't give us any reason to look at one over the other when I'm supposed to look at both. And it's not a formation thing. It says, yeah, I just feel like it could just be just how they are as individuals, and that's fine. My guy on the right, which is their stage left, but here it's in a dance practice room, so that would be our right. He really didn't give us a lot in presentation here. And I know a lot of people rely upon that. For me, you can also look at the movement and how their movement is. For him, and he felt very pedestrian. He was walking like a regular person, which is fine. But my other guy, he was approaching, he was more full in his presentation of his body. His chest was more open, his arms were more open. So naturally, I was going to tailor my attention to him because based on the build of the track, I'm naturally going to lean towards whoever's justifying that more, in a good way. If it was more chill, I would naturally want to look at the other guy, but the other guy would be too distracting because he would be louder than our music. But because my guy on the left matched the music more effectively, I naturally looked at him, even though it was a harmonized section. So that would be my note for my other guy. The pulling through, I like the energy here for him to have his moment. I like that. So it's good to see him here because he's obviously in the front and center. Way more full in his motions right here. Love that. Is he our Mr. High Note? Is he our Jung Ho of xikers? Maybe. That would be fun. I love the ch-ch. Fun. Then we have our moment slowly coming up. Moving through. Ooh, yeah. I like it. It has like a lankiness to it, which helps tailor to a lot of the other motions. That boom, da-da-da-da, which was really enjoyable to see. Building it through, that was also fun. Diving it through, doom, doom. I liked that as well. Yep, and sliding it through, which was really nice. About to do a guada, but they didn't. They hit it, and then they swung it around. So I like the varied content of this, or these sequences, and the switching of the lines, which is really nice. Love that. Ba 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 ba. Really like that too. Throwing it down. Honestly, it's very impressive. And a throw stability check where you got to go on one foot and rotate the hip flexor here and the hip. That's very impressive to see this rotation in play. Love that. I love that digging down. Da da da. Yeah, that was also fun. Da 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 da. Fun to see there. Throwing it down, digging through. Do do do. Throwing it around. Yeah, da-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. The hip, honestly, if you're going to commit, you commit. And I would say a lot of the guys in front did a good job committing with the hips and the pelvic thrust on that. It's good and it accented with the level at the top. So it actually framed really well together. And because if you look at the formation too, with the throws, which is nice, this whole thing was nice as well. Going in, this little boom, boom. The ba-da-ba-da-ba-ba. Because of the formation that they're in, it feels more tighter. And so when you have structure or you have the high and the low complementing each other in a more compact space, it's very satisfying and it helps me be very direct in where you want me to look, which is more center. So whatever's happening next needs to be tailored more towards my focus is going to be happening right here because like I said, our formation is a little bit closer, so it's dead center here. They did something at the top as well as they hit something in the center, so we're going to naturally want to focus right here, but what they did is they brought the arm back up, which I thought was a totally fine choice. When the arm swings, but notice some people are swinging with the wrist and some are swinging with the shoulder and some are swinging with the elbow. That will be a clarification thing. Also notice everybody's putting the wrong, it's like not everybody's putting the same amount of energy in their hands. With something like that, that's a focal point is your wrist. So you got to show us how do you want that wrist to travel from point A to point B. I like this part. It is giving Rookie Group Street Woman Fighter Season 2. The little but it's giving more like it's like a drunken version is what it gives me. But it matches the lankiness symptoms as well as some of the other textures that we've seen throughout the entire thing. Great choreography, if I say so myself. I really like it. It's very nice. But what I'm tackling is just if the group wants to be known as a synchronized group, or I don't know what they want to identify as in terms of what makes the group work in a dance practice, but I would say my go-to is I want them to just be very mindful of details past the basic shoulder to elbow. Like this should not be the only place we really tackle. We got to tackle the whole thing and we got to tackle all this. All the way through the toes. So, but is that tedious? Yes, it is very, very tedious, but it can be very rewarding, but it just depends on what happens in rehearsals. Yeah, because when you look there, it was really nice how our features showcased that, but then those who kind of joined in, they weren't quite the same. So it was hard for me to appreciate the focal point of the hand, the wrist shakes with the torso complementing because there wasn't a big enough, there wasn't a big enough agreement in how this was supposed to be done for us to appreciate it in its fullest context. I love that commitment there from some of our dancers, which is nice. Bringing it through, you can tell some of them are getting tired because the discrepancies are getting more and more obvious. Like here, we still are trying to showcase a lot of that energy in the arms and the throwing of the arms, but notice they were way tighter earlier, but we have a lot of different choices made here, and you can just tell which parts have been cleaned and which parts may not have been touched as effectively. I like this part, do over. Some people could be because they're wearing jeans. You never know, you know. There's some of them are really expanding out. Some of them are a little bit more towards the inside, but I can tell he's our feature. I'd say he needs to be a little bit further out. I would say if he needs to take this foot and move it about right there, I think that would do him well, I think. But that's a very minimal thing because if you look at my two guys, they're around the same height, which is why I mentioned this. If his squat was a little bit wider, he would have been able to have a more complete range on that or a complete scoop to transition over. Because notice he's already over on this side, whereas everybody else is starting to finish up. But even then, you got some lo and behold people already starting to zoom in and groove in over there. So I just feel like little details like that would make this feel a lot more complete from the dancer's execution side, not the choreography side. They're doing well enough to where I can really see what's going on, but I can't appreciate the true craftsmanship of the intention behind the hands, or why there's certain motions with the head, or why the formation is what it is because of these things that we're talking about. Does that make sense? I still love it, but it's not helping me appreciate the choreographer's details given. And that's what I want at the end of the day too, is I want to appreciate the choreographer and give flowers where flowers are due by seeing it on the dancers, not just trying to puzzle piece it myself, you know? Diving down near the tail end, that was really nice, boom, 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 but the same thing goes, you can tell they're tired. They didn't really touch on this as much. The range on that is still pretty off. Not everybody was hitting it the same way. Just kind of felt like a placeholder a little bit. So that'll be my note there, to make everything work. Those in the front, it was a little bit harder to do a hip thrust whenever you are squatted like that, but everybody else is hitting in the center. Boom, 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 and then they finish off. Really great, fun start, honestly. You know, I think this is, it makes me very intrigued on what kind of aesthetic they're going for. I mean, I do see this right here, but I have no idea what their music videos are going to entail. That's exactly how I felt with AT's, and very recently I looked at all of their music videos. So I will wait until I see all the dance practices, and then I'll watch the music videos of them so I can play catch up. But my perspective still stands. I really like the choreography. Great start to the group. I like the fact that we're an even number. Normally I'm like, I don't know, but because most of the time odd numbers work better for groups when you got people singing by themselves sometimes. But here, I didn't see any issues. If anything, they have a good formula in play where they have people go off and come on. So it really helps in the overall, you know, picture of longevity when you're doing more high intense choreography like this. So this is a great start. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you want to see more K-pop content or see me tackle marathons, whether they're mini or large scale with other established groups, I do tend to, per month, try to tackle a marathon of a group that is pretty established on Patreon. Like I said, for the entire month is dedicated to taking a look at their groups, all of their dance practices and music videos, and if they have anything that could be beneficial, what they're iconic for, whether it's a live performance, a concert, something like that, I look at that too. And if you just want to hang out on YouTube and as things post, and you can come hang out, that's totally fine. Like I said, how I work with a Gen 5 marathon, because they're not nearly as established as, let's say, a Gen 3 group is, typically I get through them a lot faster, and they don't have as many older reactions. So per new comeback that a Gen 5 group has, I have one old reaction that gets released first, and then that reaction is going to be made public on YouTube. But normally day of, I always do a reaction, and it goes on Patreon probably around 24 hours before it shows up on YouTube. So if you're somebody that wants early access as I make videos like this, that would be a perfect place to go and hang out. But I appreciate the discussions and the support in both places. So I am Jess, like I've said, and I will catch you on the flip side. Bye.